From ABC News, World News Saturday. Substituting for Carol Simpson, here's Barry Seraphin.
Good evening. There were more anti-abortion protests in Wichita, Kansas today and more arrests. And there were mixed signals today from President Bush. The president, whose administration has appeared to side with the demonstrators, scolded them for some of their tactics. But at the same time, he rejected legislation that would permit Washington, D.C. to pay for abortions. We have two reports, beginning with ABC's Kyle Gibson in Kennebunkport, Maine.
You made it. Oh, shoot!
It may look like it's all play here in Maine, but the duties of the office follow the president wherever he goes. He went right from the golf course to veto the appropriations bill for the nation's capital. In a statement, he explained the bill allows funding for abortions on demand, and that, he said, is a tragedy in America. Except when the life of the mother is endangered, he called for the nation to protect the unborn. Washington's mayor said she was disappointed but not surprised.
They knew that that was not something we were happy about. They knew there was a real point of departure, not just even on the issue of choice, but also on the issue of it ought to be a local decision.
But oddly enough, the president seemed less concerned about the opposition today than about the protesters on his side of the abortion issue who break the law.
I don't think it helps the cause, whether the cause is anti-abortion, whether it's pro-abortion, whether it's AIDS, whatever it is. And so what I'm saying is that the American people get turned off by the excesses, the denial of the rights of others, for example. And people that just come and try to get themselves on the news, for example, and have some protest, that's fine. But when you hurt somebody else's rights, that's what I disapprove of.
That's the third time this week the president has asked demonstrators to avoid what he calls just plain rudeness. He says that goes for anyone protesting anything, anywhere, from Kansas to Kennebunkport. Kyle Gibson, ABC News in Kennebunkport.
Jesus. This is Steve Shepard. The president's words had no apparent effect on anti-abortion protests in Wichita. Authorities there made more than 100 arrests today as members of Operation Rescue again attempted to block the entrance to a local abortion clinic. Mr. Bush's criticism did, however, prompt Operation Rescue founder Randall Terry to book an afternoon flight from Wichita to Kennebunkport.
The reason we're flying out there is to try and meet with the president and to clarify our position, our goals, to make sure he understands that we are completely nonviolent and we simply want to save children.
Pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Elsewhere today, anti-abortion organizers in California promised that thousands of demonstrators would assemble at more than 100 abortion clinics statewide. There were some demonstrations, but a random check showed many California clinics had little or no protest activity. In Fargo, North Dakota, 500 demonstrators gathered to peacefully picket that state's only abortion clinic. Abortion remains a divisive and extremely sensitive issue throughout the country. And as President Bush showed this week, when he drew fire from both pro- and anti-abortion forces, it's an issue that politicians still find difficult to handle. Steve Shepard, ABC News, Washington.
A man armed with an automatic rifle and a machete stood up in a restaurant in a shopping mall outside of Sydney, Australia today, and silently and calmly began killing those around him. 6 people were murdered, at least 8 were wounded before the assailant killed himself. Details from Dennis Trout.
Witnesses said the assailant said nothing about why he started the killing spree.
I saw the man running around, just shooting at anyone he can see.
One victim was a 15-year-old girl, hacked to death with a machete. As the wounded were rushed to nearby hospitals, police found the killer on the roof of the shopping mall.
We've just had a report that this gentleman has just shot himself, Flemington 450. If you could still approach with caution, thanks.
The mall had been crowded with shoppers who scattered when the massacre began. Shocked survivors searched through it for friends and relatives left behind in the chaos, hoping they had not become victims. Police did not release the killer's name, but said he was a local man with no criminal history. Dennis Trout, ABC News.
The 2 top officers of the huge bond trading company Salomon Brothers are expected to resign tomorrow at a special meeting of the firm's board. Chairman John Goodfriend and company president Thomas Strauss have admitted that they knew last spring that their firm bought more government bonds than allowed by law but did nothing about it. Investor Warren Buffett has agreed to run the company, at least temporarily. Coming up, the battle in Florida's Crystal River, pitting man against seaweed. And later in this broadcast, sudden celebrity for Gulf phenomenon John Daly, and a new threat to wildlife on Alaska's Kodiak Island.
World News Saturday, brought to you by Scope.
A kiss? Maybe later.
It's so bad you can taste it.
A kiss?
The sticky, pasty film inside your mouth.
It's pretty bad.
You wake up with every morning of your life. Morning breath.
I'll be right back.
Fight morning breath with Scope. Antiseptic Scope kills on contact 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Come here, you.
Pucker up, sweetie pie.
I'm all yours.
Antiseptic Scope. It's the best thing first thing in the morning.
Why put up with glasses that just don't fit? LensCrafters has so many ways to fit your snug points. Like snug fit pads that flex to comfortably hug your nose. LensCrafters, better fit for greater comfort. In about an hour.
Ever feel too clumsy some mornings to make a pot of coffee? Wake up to Maxwell House filter packs. You get a perfect pot every time. Maxwell House filter packs blended with Colombian beans. Because better beans make better coffee.
Tropical storm Bob picked up strength today and has now become the first hurricane of the season. Hurricane Bob, packing 75-mile-per-hour winds, is about 400 miles south of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. A hurricane watch has been posted along the North Carolina coast and part of the Virginia coastline, where residents are already beginning to hunker down just in case. Efforts are underway to combat a different kind of threat along the Gulf Coast of Florida. The threat is seaweed, enough to foul up 3 power plants and the beaches and water around them. But the real culprit is man. Mark Potter reports from Crystal River, Florida.
The battle in Crystal River between cleanup workers and seaweed has been underway for a week now. It started when tons of sargassum, a thick brown algae in the Gulf of Mexico, clogged the water intake canal owned by the Florida Power Corporation. Workers picked up enough seaweed to fill 800 dump trucks, but not before it got into the cooling system and temporarily shut down a nuclear power plant and 2 coal-burning facilities. There were no blackouts, but it was a close call for 4 million customers.
For the first time since the intake canal opened 25 years ago, conditions were just right for a seaweed problem.
Gulf currents brought the sargassum close to shore, and rare sustained winds from the southwest pushed it right up the canal.
It's interesting with all the technology that we have these days to find out that nature still can throw at us some things that are very difficult to handle.
Seaweed also is fouling Gulf Coast beaches, is killing fish by depleting oxygen, and is threatening coral in the Florida Keys. A leading expert says the problem is that seaweed is growing too fast because fertilizers from agriculture, septic tanks, and water treatment plants are pouring down the Mississippi and other rivers into the Gulf of Mexico.
If we don't pay attention to this coastal pollution problem, we can only expect that this problem will continue to worsen.
In order to prevent further seaweed problems, the power company has put barges, fences, and dredges in its intake canal. Scientists say that is only a short-term solution, and that the real answer is to stop putting fertilizers into the Gulf. Mark Potter, ABC News, Crystal River, Florida.
There was some good news today for President Bush's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Clarence Thomas. A proposal that the National Board of Directors of the ACLU opposed Thomas's nomination failed by 1 vote. But other groups, such as the NAACP and the AFL-CIO, have come out in opposition to Thomas's appointment to the court. In a moment, the failing effort to stop the spread of AIDS in Africa.
Dear Thompsons,
Honey, I ran out of
midway through waterproofing our new deck, I ran out of Thompson's water seal and finished with another brand. 2 days later, it rained. It was amazing.
Wow.
You could actually see the Thompson side working. The other side looked like I hadn't used a thing.
Thompson's Water Seal has 50% more active ingredients than most brands for more waterproofing power.
You can see the difference. For my money, nothing tops Thompson's. And I proved it. Sincerely, Marcia Jackalone, Bassett, Wisconsin.
If you don't get to sleep, I won't get to sleep.
Nitol safely helps you fall asleep fast so you can get your Z's.
Nitol or maximum strength Nitol?
Nitol will help you get yours ease.
So you just got a cash advance, did you? Too bad you used an ordinary credit card. Because you could be carrying some very heavy interest charges. Why not carry the Discover card? Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll forget the interest. Which means our money comes with no strings attached. It pays to Discover.
I need a laxative that can work dependably.
Doxadan can.
But can it be gentle?
Doxadan can. Doxadan works dependably overnight with a special ingredient for gentle relief.
Dependable, yes. Gentle, yes.
Doxadan can.
A transplant patient in Oregon who was given the wrong heart is said to be upset by the doctor's error. But doctors say the man, who has not been identified, is doing better than the average patient who receives the right heart. He's now in serious condition, and the hospital is searching urgently for a compatible heart. The medical community in Macomb, Mississippi is also in the midst of an urgent search, not for a donor organ, but for a doctor, specifically for a black doctor. Linda Patillo explains why.
In a downtrodden section of town, across the street from a ramshackle juke joint, the clinic where this area's only black doctor once practiced medicine stands empty. After a decade of treating over 60 patients a day, Dr. Dillon left town this spring, leaving a void this community, black and white, has vowed to fill.
We don't stop until we get a doctor. That's how we are committed.
If the community wants a black physician, then we're obligated to find a black physician. And surprisingly or not, it's happening in Mississippi.
Although 40% of its 36,000 residents are black, in all of Pike County, there is not one black doctor. Community leaders say they are looking for a minority within a minority. Less than 5% of all medical school graduates in the United States are black, and rural communities have a hard time attracting doctors.
There's enough room in here for 2 physicians.
A local search committee has brought recruiters to town. The hospital has promised to help with medical school bills and the first year's salary. One local minister even appealed from the pulpit, but still no doctor. Most of the more than 900 patients Dr. Dillon left behind are being treated by the town's white doctors.
Good morning.
Many would still like to see a doctor of their own color.
You could just reach down and tell them everything that's bothering you. When sometimes you might feel a little uncomfortable with a doctor that's not black.
The search is more than a matter of medicine, though. It has become a point of pride and a measure of progress.
This is not Macomb 1960, this is Macomb 1991.
We need black kids to see black doctors, to know that they can do these things also.
Sheila Williams wants a role model for her 15-year-old son Cedric, who dreams of being a doctor.
If we have a physician in the area that is black, he can look to him and say, hey, if he did it, I can do it also.
For the residents of Pike County, the search for a doctor has become a symbol. 25 years ago, their parents fought to give them an equal footing. Now they are determined that their children keep moving forward. Linda Patillo, ABC News, Macomb, Mississippi.
Perhaps the most frightening disease of our time is AIDS. The global AIDS epidemic is particularly acute in the developing nations of Africa. Beth Nissen reports that despite massive amounts of help from Washington, the situation is only getting worse.
In any American drugstore, it costs pocket change to buy protection against AIDS. 10 years into the AIDS epidemic, condoms are still the best practical defense against the spread of the virus. But for more than 2 billion people, the best defense is not available. In dozens of developing countries, condoms are simply unaffordable, even at 2 cents apiece.
It's not so much that condoms are so expensive, it's that people are so poor.
In Ethiopia, a year's supply of 100 condoms costs only $36, but that is nearly 1/3 of the average person's annual income.
If there are not condoms available, there is going to be more HIV transmission and more AIDS.
That prospect is devastating in countries like Uganda, where 10% of those over the age of 15 are already infected with the AIDS virus, 1 in 10. Yet foreign aid donors distribute enough condoms to reach only 6% of Uganda's population. The world's leading donor of condoms is the United States government. Last year, the U.S. distributed more than 800 million condoms worldwide. It sounds like a huge number, but not in the high math of AIDS. The 3 million condoms the U.S. sent to Uganda last year were enough for only 1 per man. To fully supply all of Africa with condoms would cost a staggering $14 billion a year.
If we were to provide every African man with 100 condoms a year, it would use up all the money we now have in the foreign aid budget.
Washington cannot do that. And unless the rest of the international community begins to pay for and distribute billions of condoms, AIDS will continue to have free reign in the world. Beth Nissen, ABC News.
One final note from overseas. The United Nations says Iraq has returned $650 million worth of gold bars it looted during its occupation of Kuwait. The 3,216 gold bars weighing 40 tons are now back in the vaults of Kuwait's central bank. The return of millions of dollars in Kuwaiti banknotes and coins starts Monday. When we come back, Long John Daly's Cinderella story.
April in Paris.
He spoke English like I spoke French, but somehow we talked for hours over coffee. Coffee so rich, I thought I'd never taste its like again.
Discover the deep, rich flavor of Maxwell House Rich French Roast.
Encore un café? What?
More coffee?
Oui.
Maxwell House Rich French Roast, blended with Colombian beans because better beans make better coffee. Today, there's a prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot. Lotrimin AF, the #1 prescribed athlete's foot medication available without a prescription. Lotrimin AF, the prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot.
Presenting the Gripper Zipper from Ziploc. Now the easiest closing bag there is. In fact, even the little ones can close it. Hello.
Feel the zipper. It's locking. Feel it close the first time, every time.
Ziploc bags with the Gripper Zipper.
Mr. Phipps. Freddie, if you want to do pretzels again, fine, but I think they need a little work.
Mr. Phipps.
They could be lighter, crispier somehow. You follow me?
Mr. Phipps.
Wait. I've got an idea. What's the tastiest part of the pretzel?
The crispy outside.
No, the crispy outside. So what if we created a pretzel that only has an outside, sort of a chip? A chip you could dip. Get it?
Got it.
Now, what can we call them?
Mr. Phipps pretzel chips.
Great name.
When 1 in 4 adults looks at dairy food, their stomach says stop. Say no now or pay later. Antacids aren't made for this problem, called lactose intolerance. But new Dairy Ease is. It's not an antacid, but a natural nutritional supplement that helps comfortable digestion of ice cream, cheese, and milk. Now enjoy dairy food as naturally as everyone else with pleasant-tasting, chewable new Dairy Ease.
Now let's go to Ray Gandolf in New York for a look at golf's answer to Rocky Balboa. And, of course, today's sports highlights. Ray?
Thank you, Barry. In the storied old Travers Stakes at Saratoga today, 6 3-year-olds broke from the gate. But by the time they hit the stretch, it was a 2-horse race. Corporate Report on the inside had led all the way, dogged by Hansel, winner of 2 jewels in the Triple Crown. And Corporate Report, under a nourishing ride by Chris McCarron, held on to win. Fly So Free was 3rd. In Havana, Puerto Rico won its first gold medal of the Pan American Games, thrashing Mexico in the basketball final by 12 points. The United States won the bronze medal courtesy of 60, count them 60, personal fouls by Cuba, not all of them quite that flagrant. A young man who looks like a lion and talks like a lamb amazed the golfing world last week with an overpowering performance in the PGA Championship. Today, John Daly missed the cut in a tournament in Colorado, but he still speaks softly and carries a very big stick. In a practice round before this week's tournament in Denver, they only had eyes for John Daly. The autograph seekers, the TV crews, the photographers who would put him on at least 2 magazine covers, even a few groupies. Because last week, John Daly had taken the long, crooked stick course near Indianapolis by the throat and shaken out of it the PGA Championship, a major title, his first victory on the big tour.
All I wanted to do was make the cut last week. That's all I wanted to do. It was so nice to play in the tournament, and I just wanted to make the cut, and to win it is just a dream come true.
Daly qualified only because another player, whose wife was giving birth, withdrew. Daly had never seen the course, let alone walked it, but he split the fairways with his free-swinging 300-yard drives. And around the greens, he was poetry.
My short game was the best it could be last week. It couldn't have been any better.
Beautiful.
It really paid off. And I guess when you win golf tournaments, stuff like that happens.
That was finesse. John Daly plays golf like a man with a train to catch. He just steps up to the ball and strokes it.
I like to play fast. Out here, your stomach's just full of butterflies, your heart's pumping. The more you sit over a golf ball, in my opinion, for me to play, it just runs me.
During the first round of the PGA, a spectator was struck and killed by lightning. Daly, after his victory, offered $30,000, 13% of his winnings, to establish a scholarship fund for the man's 2 children.
It comes from the heart. I love people, and now I have a chance to help people out. And, you know, to me, money is great. It buys things, but it's still paper.
Daly loves people, and people love Daly because he's new and he plays with abandon. Cinderella with panache. His walk to the final green was a festival of love.
It was unreal. I was so pumped up. I felt like I could have walked through the cement wall, how pumped up I was. And I had chills all up and down my body, and that doesn't happen too much. I know one thing, I've adopted a new city, and they've adopted me. Indianapolis is a great city, and I love the fans there.
John Daly is the hero of the moment. The media predators are upon him. The endorsement hustlers are waving money at him. But he seems more concerned about who he is than who he might become.
2 weeks ago, I was a nobody, you know, but it's just, I guess it's just live. I did something great, and I have to realize that I'm still John Daly, and I don't want to be anybody else. I want to be the same John Daly when things were bad and when they didn't know me.
There's at least one more short-term bright moment in John Daly's life. He's getting married in October. Barry?
Thanks, Ray. When we return, the showdown between man and nature on Alaska's Kodiak Island.
Do what the pros do. Hit your receiver and call now for the Domino's Pizza Kickoff Deal. 2 medium cheese pizzas with 4 servings of Coca-Cola Classic or Diet Coke for just $9.99. And get free NFL quarterback trading cards.
Only from Domino's!
A muffler isn't something you just stick under your car. The wrong one could really hurt your engine performance and fuel economy. Midas quality mufflers are installed by experts and backed by a great guarantee. Ain't nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
My company came to me, and they suggested, strongly, not just suggested, that I seek assistance. I thought it was to fire me. And instead, they gave me an opportunity to save my life.
David Brinkley here. On our This Week program Sunday, Americans ask who will run for president next time. We'll question 3 possible candidates and speculate about some others.
Finally tonight, a rare look at one of the few pieces of pure wilderness left on the planet. It's a rugged Alaskan preserve filled with birds and fish and the biggest carnivores that still walk on the earth. Now that preserve is in danger from the very natives who own it and who say they must exploit it or become destitute. In the first of two reports, here's Roger Karras.
It is wild, truly wild, and it is beautiful, as these scenes testify. This is Alaska's Kodiak Island, 3,465 square miles of wilderness, not quite like any other on Earth. In one corner, in the northeast, the town of Kodiak, with the third largest fishing fleet in the United States. Eagles are as common here as pigeons in other places. Fox walk the beach in search of the leavings of other animals. The Aleut natives here are largely members of the Russian Orthodox Church, usually very serious members who worship with their own village lay readers and a traveling priest. Alleluia, alleluia. The big attraction on this island is a true giant, up to 1,500 pounds in fact, the largest meat-eating land animal left on Earth, the Kodiak bear. All over the world there are people who dream of true wilderness. There aren't that many places left where it exists, but here, the National Wildlife Refuge on Kodiak Island, Alaska, it does. Many people come to see these giants. Retired Swiss banker Roland Zabinden and his wife Vivian have been coming here for 12 years.
I come here, you know. It's a long travel. I have to cross the ocean. I have to take a small plane to come here. It's to see bears. It's not to see other people and so on, you know.
Bears like it to be really wild, where they can fish for salmon and walk their hills, riverbanks, and beaches in solitary splendor. But their splendor is a magnet for human beings, as are the salmon the bears love so well. And each year, more and more cabins and lodges scar what were until recently pristine areas, seen but not touched by man. It just might be getting crowded in big brown bear country, and that could spell trouble for man and animal alike. Jay Bellinger, the refuge manager, was recently charged by a bear. Fortunately, he did not have to use the large caliber gun he carries with him.
If there's a choice between people and bears, it's always the bears come up with the short end of the stick.
The bears are extremely dangerous, and man is generally inexorable once he starts pushing into an area. Tomorrow, a very real danger to the world's greatest bear. Rampant development may be on the way. Roger Karras, ABC News, Kodiak Island, Alaska.
And that's World News Saturday. I'm Barry Serafin. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
From Washington, this has been World News Saturday.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Saturday, killer whales, beautiful and mysterious in the wild, magnificent and controversial in captivity.
You good girl?
Beautiful killers on ABC's World of Discovery. Then, he had it all. He only had to play the game.
I want to see a war!
What price victory? Saturday.
We always come